Hey everybody, Pastor Tony here. It is Wednesday. We are getting ready to go into our summer series. We've decided this year again to bring back the Summer in the Psalms. And so we will be looking at our, still using the common lectionary for our weekly Common Thread Bible studies, but we will be grabbing the Psalm for the week and looking at that each week this summer. So we kicked that off this Sunday. So today, yesterday, Pastor Andy did Psalm 130, what I'll be teaching on this Sunday. But today I'm in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 for our text today, which it fits along the lines of our theme for this week, our common theme, common thread through all of the texts this week. And so this week we're looking at 130. Psalm 130, I've titled the message this week, Already, Not Yet. Already, but not yet. So Paul, just to give you a little background into our text, is in chapter 4 of 2 Corinthians. Paul gives this famous something we all cling to, this little analogy of the Christian life, and he talks about it as having a treasure in a jar of clay. He said, we have this treasure in jars of clay. He's speaking about our bodies, the physical body, to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. In other words, we are bound by our physical limitations. We are perplexed. We are crushed. We are pressed on each side. He goes on to say, we are afflicted in every way. It is just the way of the flesh. It's the way of humanity. But not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. So Paul gives us this idea that we have this treasure that's in a jar, as though it's in a jar of clay. And jars of clay, as they would have known in that day, are fragile. One wrong step and it breaks, it cracks, it falls apart. But Paul is wanting the Corinthians to understand this idea that even though this life is fragile and that we are pressed in on all sides, that we're persecuted, we're perplexed, that we suffer affliction, something's going on inside of us. Something's going on that in the unseen world that we hope for, that we hope in. And so he gets to verse 13, and he says, since we have the same spirit of faith according to what has been written, I believed, and so I spoke. We also believed, and so we also speak. He says this, knowing that he who raised the Lord Jesus will raise us also with Jesus and bring us with you into his presence. For it is all for your sake, so that as grace extends to more and more people, it may increase thanksgiving to the glory of God. So we do not lose heart. And so here's this context. Paul's in this whole idea that we're suffering, we're afflicted, we're pressed in, we are like jars of clay that have cracks in them, maybe parts of them broke off, but inside of that is a treasure that we give thanks for. He says, we don't lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. He says, for this light momentary affliction is preparing us for eternal weight of glory, an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen. And there's that idea. What we see is not our reality as a Christian. What we experience here, even though it's real, it is not the final say. It is not our destiny, if you will. He says, things are seen, but nothing's unseen. He said, for the things that are seen are transient. In other words, they're here for a moment and they're gone. But the things that are unseen are eternal. That idea of that treasure that we have inside of these jars of clay, we do not lose heart because of that treasure. Last year, my family, we all went to South Dakota. And my girls, my 3 daughters and my wife and I decided to really climb a mountain. We went to a famous, there in Deadwood, South Dakota, we went to a famous cemetery where Calamity Jane is buried and Wild Bill and all that hiccup. And so we went to this cemetery, and in that cemetery, there's a trail that leads up to this mountain. And on the other side of the mountain, you can see it. There is this tall structure that was functional, that was at the top of this mountain. It's like a metal tower, like a radio antenna. And you can tell just from being where you are, you wanted to get to the top of this mountain because you just knew, and everyone told you, if you could just get to the top, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's beyond, the view is just beyond what you could imagine. And so we started out on this long uphill journey to the top of this mountain. And let me tell you that we could see the top of the mountain, and we could anticipate and hope in the view and what we might experience on the top of the mountain. But what was going on the top of the mountain was very different from our reality on the path. And that is what Paul is trying to say, is that we keep moving, knowing that what we are experiencing now is not the glory of Christ. It's not the glory of this treasure that we have. The weight of the glory of God is on the top of the mountain. So keep going, keep pressing forward, keep your faith in front of you, hope in those things that are unseen, and understand that what you experience now is preparing us for what's ahead. God bless you guys, and have